A 27-year-old billionaire lies dying while top doctors fail. Outside, a homeless 6-year-old girl holds the key to save him. What she discovers will shock the medical world and expose decades of lies. Can a child's innocent observation revolutionize heart surgery forever? Like and comment if you believe miracles come from the most unexpected places. If you enjoy incredible true stories that restore your faith in miracles, please hit that like button and share your thoughts in the comments below. Your support means everything. The sterile corridors of Manhattan Presbyterian Hospital had never witnessed such desperation. Dr. Harrison Blackwell, America's most renowned cardiologist, stood frozen outside room 847, his hands trembling as he stared at the monitors showing flatlining vitals. Inside, 27-year-old tech mogul Marcus Chen lay dying, his billions powerless against the mysterious heart condition that had baffled every specialist on the East Coast. "We've tried everything," Dr. Blackwell whispered to his team of 4 elite cardiologists who had flown in from Boston, Chicago, Cleveland, and Los Angeles. Each carried decades of experience, countless successful surgeries, and reputations worth millions. Yet here they stood, defeated by a heart that simply refused to respond to any known treatment. Marcus had collapsed 3 days ago during a board meeting, his multi-billion-dollar empire grinding to a halt as his heart began an erratic dance that defied medical explanation. The rhythm was unlike anything documented in cardiology textbooks. It wasn't arrhythmia, wasn't cardiomyopathy, wasn't any condition they could identify or treat. His heart is essentially rewiring itself, Dr. Sarah Martinez from Boston General explained, her voice heavy with frustration. The electrical pathways are creating patterns we've never seen. It's as if his cardiac system is trying to evolve into something completely different. Outside the hospital, 6-year-old Emma Rodriguez pressed her small face against the cold window of the children's ward, her breath creating little clouds on the glass. She'd been living in the hospital's parking garage with her mother Maria for 3 weeks now, ever since they'd been evicted from their tiny apartment. Maria worked nights cleaning office buildings, leaving Emma to wander the hospital corridors during visiting hours, invisible to the busy medical staff. Emma had discovered she could hear things others couldn't, not voices or sounds, but something deeper, like music that came from people's chests. She didn't understand what it meant, but she knew everyone had their own special song. Most people's songs were steady and calm, like her mother's lullabies. But lately, she'd been hearing a song that was all wrong, coming from somewhere high up in the big building. The doctors reconvened for their final consultation. "We need to face reality," Dr. Blackwell announced to the assembled team. "Marcus Chen has perhaps 6 hours left. We've exhausted every protocol, every experimental treatment. His family needs to be prepared for—" "Doctor!" A nurse burst through the door. "The patient is awake and asking to speak with you." Marcus's eyes, though weak, burned with determination. "I want to try one more thing," he rasped. "Bring me that little girl." "Mr. Chen, you're hallucinating. There's no little girl here, doctor." Martinez said gently, "The one who's been watching from outside. Dark hair, worn-out purple jacket. She's been there every day." Marcus's voice grew stronger. "I've seen her from my window. She's special." The doctors exchanged concerned glances. Delirium was common in dying patients, but Marcus seemed oddly lucid despite his condition. "Sir, we can't just bring random children into intensive care," Dr. Blackwell protested. "Find her," Marcus commanded with surprising authority. "I'll donate $50 million to this hospital if you find her and bring her to me. If I die, the money goes to research. If she somehow helps me live, it goes to the children's wing." The offer was impossible to ignore. Within minutes, security located Emma in the parking garage, where she was sharing a cold sandwich with her sleeping mother. The sight of 5 distinguished doctors, approaching their makeshift shelter under a rusted van, should have terrified any normal child. Instead, Emma looked up with knowing eyes that seemed far too old for her 6 years. "Is it time to help the sad song man?" she asked simply. Dr. Blackwell knelt down, his expensive suit touching the dirty concrete. "What do you mean, sweetheart?" His heart is singing the wrong song. "It's trying to tell everyone something important, but nobody's listening." Emma stood up, brushing crumbs from her threadbare jacket. "I've been hearing it for days. It's getting sadder and sadder." The doctors shared skeptical looks, but Marcus's $50 million promise echoed in their minds. What did they have to lose? As they escorted Emma through the hospital corridors, she suddenly stopped in front of room 847. "This is where the broken song is coming from," she announced, though they hadn't told her which room was Marcus's. Inside the room, Emma approached Marcus's bed with the confidence of someone much older. The monitors showed his heart rate spiking dangerously as she got closer, but she didn't seem afraid. "Your heart isn't sick," she told him matter-of-factly. "It's trying to grow new paths, like when plants grow around rocks. But the doctors keep stopping it because they think it's wrong." Dr. Blackwell stepped forward. "Emma, hearts don't grow new pathways. That's not how cardiac anatomy works." Emma turned to him with those impossibly wise eyes. "Did you ever listen to what his heart is actually trying to do, or did you just try to make it beat like everyone else's?" The question hung in the air like a challenge. These doctors had run every test, tried every treatment, but had they actually listened to what Marcus's heart was attempting? "Show us what you mean," Dr. Martinez said quietly, her scientific curiosity overriding her skepticism. Emma placed her small ear against Marcus's chest, closing her eyes in concentration. The room fell silent, except for the beeping of monitors. After a long moment, she looked up with excitement. "His heart found a new way to pump blood. It's making extra little tunnels, but your machines keep trying to shock them away. That's why he's dying. You're stopping his heart from saving itself." The doctors stared in stunned silence. What this child was describing sounded impossible yet. Dr. Blackwell frantically pulled up Marcus's latest cardiac imaging on his tablet. As he studied the scans with fresh eyes, looking not for pathology, but for adaptation, his face went pale. "My God," he whispered. "She's right. Look at these microvascular formations. We interpreted them as abnormal growths, but what if they're actually spontaneous coronary collateralization? The heart is creating its own bypass system." The revelation hit the room like lightning. Instead of treating a dying heart, they had been inadvertently preventing a miraculous self-healing process that occurred perhaps once in medical history. But as the doctors began to understand the magnitude of their mistake, none of them noticed Emma quietly slipping something small and metallic under Marcus's pillow, something that would change everything they thought they knew about medicine, about Emma, and about the mysterious connection between a dying billionaire and a homeless child who could hear the secret songs of human hearts. The medical team spent the next 4 hours completely revolutionizing their approach to Marcus's treatment. Instead of suppressing his heart's unusual electrical patterns, they began supporting the spontaneous collateral vessel formation that Emma had identified. Within hours, Marcus's condition stabilized dramatically. Dr. Blackwell couldn't contain his amazement. "In 30 years of cardiology, I've never seen anything like this. The heart is essentially performing its own coronary artery bypass surgery at the cellular level. It's creating new blood pathways around damaged tissue through pure biological adaptation." "Dui." Emma sat quietly in the corner chair, swinging her legs and coloring with crayons a kind nurse had brought her. To the medical staff, she appeared to be just a remarkably intuitive child who had somehow stumbled upon an extraordinary insight. But Emma knew she was much more than that. She had always been able to hear the songs. Her earliest memory was lying in her crib, listening to her mother's heartbeat through the thin walls of their tiny apartment. Each person had their own rhythm, their own melody. Happy people had light, dancing songs. Sad people had slow, heavy ones. Sick people had songs that were off-key or breaking apart. But Marcus's song was different from any she'd ever encountered. It wasn't breaking, it was creating something entirely new, like a musician discovering a new scale that had never existed before. Emma, Dr. Martinez approached her carefully. Can you tell us how you knew about the heart pathways? Did someone teach you about medicine? Emma looked up from her coloring book, where she had been drawing intricate patterns that looked remarkably similar to cardiac anatomy. Nobody taught me. I just listen to the songs and tell people what they mean. Songs? Everyone has a heart song. Most people's songs are pretty simple, but some people have really complicated ones. The sad song man, she gestured toward Marcus, has the most beautiful song I've ever heard. It's like a whole orchestra trying to play together for the first time. Dr. Sarah Martinez had completed her pediatric rotation early in her career and recognized something unusual in Emma's cognitive development. The child's vocabulary, reasoning patterns, and spatial awareness were far beyond typical 6-year-old capabilities. Emma, would you like to see what your friend's heart looks like on our special pictures? Dr. Martinez asked, pulling up Marcus's latest echocardiogram on the room's large monitor. Emma jumped up eagerly, studying the black and white images with intense concentration. Her small finger traced patterns on the screen that precisely matched the new vessel formations the doctors had just discovered. See how it's making little bridges here and here? Emma pointed to areas that the medical team had initially misdiagnosed as pathological growths. His heart is really smart. It figured out that the old roads were broken, so it's building new ones. But it needs help, not medicine that tries to stop it. Marcus, now conscious and alert, watched this interaction with growing fascination. Emma, how long have you been able to hear these songs? Forever, she replied simply. But most grown-ups don't like when I tell them about their songs. They think I'm being weird or making stuff up. What does my song sound like now? Marcus asked. Emma tilted her head, listening intently. It's getting stronger and happier. Before, it sounded like a sad violin trying to play alone. Now it sounds like the violin found some friends to play with. But, she paused, looking troubled. But what, sweetheart? Dr. Blackwell encouraged. There's still something hidden in your song. Something that happened a long time ago that made your heart sad first, before it got sick. The sickness isn't the real problem. It's trying to fix something that got broken when you were little, like me. The room fell silent. Marcus's face went completely white, and several monitors began beeping as his heart rate spiked suddenly. Marcus, what is it? Dr. Martinez checked his vitals, concerned by the sudden change. Marcus stared at Emma with an expression of shock and recognition that terrified the medical team. How could you possibly know about... He stopped himself, glancing nervously at the doctors. Emma approached his bedside again, her small hand reaching toward something under his pillow. The doctors watched in confusion as she withdrew a small, tarnished silver locket that none of them had seen before. This isn't yours, she said matter-of-factly, holding up the locket. But it's been calling to your heart for a very long time. That's why your heart got confused and tried to change itself. It was trying to find someone. Marcus's hands shook as he reached for the locket. The moment his fingers touched it, every monitor in the room began displaying readings that defied medical explanation. His heart rhythm didn't just stabilize, it began beating in perfect, healthy patterns for the first time in 3 days. Where did you get this? Marcus whispered, his voice breaking. It was in your coat pocket when they brought you here, but it doesn't belong to you. It belongs to someone your heart has been looking for. Emma's eyes seemed to pierce directly into Marcus's soul. Someone who got lost when you were 7 years old. Dr. Blackwell stepped forward urgently. I need to understand what's happening here. Marcus, what is that locket, and how is it affecting your cardiac function? Marcus opened the locket with trembling fingers, revealing a tiny photograph of 2 children, a boy and a girl, both around 7 years old, standing together on what appeared to be a playground. The boy looked exactly like a young Marcus Chen. This locket belonged to my sister, Marcus said quietly. Twin sister. We were separated when our parents died in a car crash 20 years ago. The adoption system split us up. I've been searching for her ever since I made my first million, but he looked at Emma with growing amazement. How did you know about Lucy? Emma smiled sadly. Because she's been singing to your heart every day for 20 years. That's why your heart got sick. It was trying to grow strong enough to find her. Hearts know things our brains forget. But that's impossible, Dr. Martinez protested. Psychological stress can cause cardiac episodes, but it can't cause spontaneous coronary collateralization. Can't it? Emma asked innocently. What if hearts are smarter than we think? What if they can actually change themselves when they need to really, really badly? The medical implications of what Emma was suggesting were staggering. Could intense emotional longing actually trigger adaptive cardiac evolution? Could the human heart physically transform itself in response to psychological need? But before anyone could process these questions fully, Emma dropped the bombshell that would change everything. Marcus, she said quietly, your sister's song isn't far away anymore. It's getting closer, I think. I think she's been looking for you too. Marcus sat up straighter despite his weakness. What do you mean closer? Emma, can you actually locate people through these songs you hear? Emma nodded seriously. Songs get louder when people are near each other. Lucy's song has been getting louder every day since you got sick. I think she knows something happened to you. Dr. Blackwell's mind raced with possibilities. Emma, this is very important. If what you're saying is true, do you think Lucy might be somewhere in this city, in this hospital? Emma closed her eyes, concentrating deeply. When she opened them, her expression was both excited and worried. She's in this building, she announced, but her song is scared and sad. She's not a patient. She's looking for someone. And Emma paused, looking directly at Dr. Martinez with those unnaturally wise eyes. And what, sweetheart? And she can hear songs too, just like me. That's how she knows her brother is here, even though she doesn't know which room he's in. The revelation that there might be another person with Emma's extraordinary abilities somewhere in the hospital sent shockwaves through the medical team. But none of them were prepared for the discovery that would soon reveal the true connection between Marcus Chen, Emma Rodriguez, and a mysterious woman who had been searching the hospital corridors for 3 days, following the sound of a heartbeat she had recognized since birth. Doctor Martinez immediately contacted hospital security to search for a woman matching Marcus's description of his twin sister. Within 20 minutes, they located her in the hospital's family waiting area, a woman in her late 20s with the same distinctive features as Marcus, sitting alone and appearing distressed. When Lucy Chen Morrison was escorted to room 847, the reunion was unlike anything the medical staff had ever witnessed. The moment she saw Marcus, both siblings began crying, but more remarkably, every cardiac monitor in the room registered synchronized heartbeats. Their hearts, separated for 20 years, were beating in perfect rhythm. I felt it 3 days ago, Lucy sobbed, holding Marcus's hand. I was at home in Chicago, and suddenly I felt this terrible pain in my chest. I knew something was wrong with you, even though I hadn't seen you since we were 7. I drove here as fast as I could. Emma watched the reunion with a satisfied smile, but the doctors noticed she seemed to be listening to something only she could hear. This is medically impossible, Dr. Blackwell murmured to his colleague. Cardiac synchronization between separated twins has never been documented. Actually, Emma interrupted, their hearts never really separated. They've been singing together this whole time, just very quietly. That's why Marcus got sick. His heart was trying to sing loud enough for Lucy to hear it. Lucy turned to Emma with recognition dawning in her eyes. You can hear them too, can't you? The heartbeats? Emma nodded eagerly. You have the same gift. I knew there had to be others. I've been able to hear people's heartbeats since I was very young, Lucy explained to the stunned medical team. I thought everyone could do it, until I realized other children couldn't tell when someone was scared or lying or sick just by listening. I've been working as a nurse practitioner in Chicago, specializing in pediatric cardiology. The pieces of the puzzle began falling into place. Lucy had unconsciously chosen a medical career that utilized her extraordinary auditory abilities, while Emma, despite her young age, had developed the same gift to an even more refined degree. Doctor. Martinez pulled Lucy aside. This is going to sound strange, but we need to understand your abilities better. Can you demonstrate what you hear? Lucy listened carefully, then pointed to different doctors around the room. Dr. Blackwell has mild arrhythmia, nothing serious, but he should reduce his caffeine intake. The nurse by the window has low blood pressure today, probably from not eating enough. And you, she looked directly at Dr. Martinez, have a heart murmur that you've never had properly diagnosed. Dr. Martinez felt the blood drain from her face. She had been ignoring subtle chest symptoms for months, attributing them to stress and long work hours. Emma, Dr. Blackwell said urgently, can you hear the same things Lucy described? Emma nodded, then added something that made everyone in the room freeze. But I can hear something else too, something none of you know about yet. What do you mean? Marcus asked, his voice tense. Emma looked around the room at the 5 renowned cardiologists who had been unable to save Marcus until she intervened. Your hearts are all singing scared songs right now, not because of Marcus anymore, but because you're worried about your jobs. The doctors exchanged uncomfortable glances. Emma's observation was unnervingly accurate. You're scared because you know that what happened here changes everything. If people find out that a little girl saved someone you couldn't save, and that she can do things medical machines can't do, it means maybe doctors aren't as important as everyone thinks. Doctor. Blackwell stepped forward defensively. Emma, medical science is built on years of training, and I'm not saying doctors are bad, Emma interrupted gently. I'm saying maybe there are things about hearts that science hasn't figured out yet, things that some people just know. Lucy looked at her brother, then at Emma, understanding passing between them. Marcus, I think Emma is right. I've been working in hospitals for 5 years, and I've seen things that can't be explained by standard cardiology. Patients who recover when they shouldn't. Hearts that respond to things that have nothing to do with medicine. Like what? Dr. Martinez asked, her scientific curiosity overriding her professional skepticism. Love, Lucy said simply. Fear, hope, longing. I've watched hearts change their rhythm based on emotions in ways that shouldn't be physiologically possible. But doctors aren't trained to measure those things, so they get dismissed as coincidence. Emma stood up on her chair, addressing the room with the authority of someone much older. What if I told you that every person in this hospital could learn to hear heart songs if they really wanted to? What if this gift isn't just for special people like me and Lucy? The question hung in the air like a challenge to everything the medical professionals believed about cardiac care. That's not how medical abilities work, Dr. Blackwell protested weakly. Emma smiled mischievously. Dr. Blackwell, close your eyes and really listen to Marcus's heart. Not with your stethoscope or your machines. Just listen with your ears and your feelings. Despite his skepticism, Dr. Blackwell found himself following Emma's instructions. He closed his eyes, leaning closer to Marcus's bed, and attempted to listen in a way he had never tried before. After several minutes, his eyes snapped open in shock. I think I can actually hear something. It's very faint, but there's definitely a rhythm that's different from what the monitors are showing. That's his real heartbeat, Emma explained. The monitors only hear the loud part. But hearts have quiet songs too underneath the beating. That's where the important stuff happens. One by one, the other doctors tried Emma's technique. To their amazement, each began to detect subtle cardiac rhythms that their instruments weren't registering. This could revolutionize cardiac diagnosis, Dr. Martinez whispered. If we could train medical students to develop this kind of auditory sensitivity. But Emma wasn't finished with her revelations. There's one more thing, she said, her voice becoming serious. The reason Marcus got sick, the reason Lucy found him, the reason I was here to help. It wasn't just coincidence. The room fell silent, waiting. Sometimes hearts know things are going to happen before they happen. Marcus's heart started changing 3 months ago, getting ready for something. Lucy's heart started calling her to come here 3 weeks ago. And my heart. Emma paused, looking sad for the first time since they'd met her. Your heart what, sweetheart? Marcus encouraged gently. My heart brought me and my mama here because it knew you would need me. But now that you're better, my heart is telling me we have to leave soon. There are other people with broken heart songs who need help. The adults in the room realized they were witnessing something unprecedented. Emma wasn't just a child with unusual abilities. She appeared to be someone whose very purpose was to help heal hearts in ways traditional medicine couldn't. But as they contemplated the implications of everything they had learned, none of them noticed the small recording device that had been placed in the room by someone who had been listening to every word, someone who understood the true value of what Emma could do, and who had very different plans for a child who could revolutionize modern medicine. The beeping of incoming text messages on all 5 doctors' phones interrupted the moment. Each had received the same anonymous message. The child's abilities must be studied. Formal arrangements will be made. This is not a request. Emma heard their hearts all start beating faster at the same time, and she knew their peaceful moment together was about to end. The anonymous messages changed everything. Within hours, Manhattan Presbyterian Hospital was swarming with officials from the National Institute of Health, accompanied by men in expensive suits who claimed to represent interested parties in Emma's extraordinary abilities. Dr. Patricia Steinberg, the hospital's chief administrator, called an emergency meeting with the medical team. Gentlemen, we have a situation that's spiraling beyond our control. Word has leaked about the child's unusual diagnostic capabilities. We're receiving calls from medical schools, pharmaceutical companies, and government agencies. Emma sat in the hospital cafeteria with Marcus and Lucy, sharing chicken nuggets and chocolate milk, seemingly oblivious to the storm brewing around her. But her young mind was processing conversations she could hear from 3 floors away. Adults with fast, worried heartbeats making plans about her future. They want to study me like a science experiment, Emma said quietly, dipping a nugget in ketchup. Their hearts are excited about discovering something new, but they're not thinking about me as a person. Lucy reached across the table, taking Emma's small hand. We won't let anyone hurt you or take you away from your mother. Where is your mother, sweetheart? Marcus asked gently. He had been wondering about Emma's family situation since learning she'd been living in the hospital parking garage. Emma's expression grew sad. Mama's at work. She cleans offices at night so we can have money for food. She doesn't know about the heart songs. I never told her because she has enough worries already. Marcus felt something shift in his chest, a protective instinct he'd never experienced before. Despite his billions, he'd never had anyone to truly care for. Emma had saved his life, but more than that, she had given him a purpose beyond accumulating wealth. Emma, would you and your mother Like to stay in a safe place while we figure out what these government people want? Marcus offered. I have a house with lots of rooms, and your mother wouldn't have to work nights anymore. Emma studied his face carefully, listening to his heartbeat. After a moment, she smiled. Your heart song is different now. It sounds like you found what you were looking for, but it wasn't just Lucy. What do you mean? You were looking for family. Lucy was part of it, but not all of it. Your heart wanted to take care of someone the way you wished someone had taken care of you when you were little. The insight was so accurate it took Marcus's breath away. He had spent 20 years building an empire, but what he truly craved was the family connection he'd lost as a child. Their conversation was interrupted by Dr. Blackwell, who approached their table with obvious reluctance. Emma, there are some people who would like to meet you, very important people who are interested in your special abilities. Emma's expression hardened with wisdom far beyond her years. The people with the scared, excited hearts who want to put me in a laboratory? Dr. Blackwell looked startled. How did you... Emma, they're doctors and scientists. They just want to understand how you can do what you do. No, Emma said firmly. They want to find out if they can make other people do what I do, or if they can use what I do to make money. I can hear it in their hearts. They're not thinking about helping sick people. They're thinking about patents and discoveries and being famous. Lucy stood up protectively. She's just a 6-year-old child. Whatever these people want, it can wait until she's older and can make her own decisions. But Emma had already made her decision. She stood up on her chair, addressing Dr. Blackwell with startling authority. Tell them I'll meet with them, but only if they agree to my rules. Emma, you're 6 years old. You can't negotiate with federal officials, Dr. Blackwell protested. Watch me, Emma replied calmly. Tell them I'll demonstrate my abilities for exactly 1 hour. In exchange, they have to promise to leave me and my family alone for 5 years, and they have to fund a new kind of medical school where doctors learn to listen to hearts the way I do, not just with machines. Marcus and Lucy exchanged amazed glances. Emma was proposing to trade her cooperation for educational reform and protection, a negotiation strategy that would impress seasoned business executives. They'll never agree to those terms, Dr. Blackwell said. Emma smiled mysteriously. They will, because I'm going to tell them something that will make them need me more than I need them. An hour later, Emma found herself in the hospital's largest conference room, facing 12 adults in expensive suits, white lab coats, and government badges. The tension in the room was palpable, with recording equipment, medical instruments, and legal documents spread across multiple tables. Dr. Steinberg made the introductions. Emma, these people represent various medical institutions and government agencies. They're very interested in understanding your unique diagnostic abilities. Emma looked around the room, listening carefully to the collection of heartbeats surrounding her. After a long moment, she shook her head sadly. You're all here for the wrong reasons, she announced. You want to study me because you think I'm special or different, but that's not what's really happening. Dr. Richard Hayes from the National Institute of Health leaned forward. Emma, what do you think is really happening? I'm not special. Everyone used to be able to hear heart songs, but people forgot how because they started depending on machines instead of their feelings. I can still do it because I'm little, and nobody taught me that it was impossible yet. The room fell silent. Emma's explanation challenged fundamental assumptions about human sensory capabilities and medical training. Are you saying this ability is learnable? Asked Dr. Catherine Mills from Harvard Medical School. Emma nodded enthusiastically. That's what I've been trying to tell everyone. Marcus's doctors started hearing it too once they really tried. But you can't learn it if you think it's magic, or if you only want to use it to make money. She walked to the center of the room, looking each adult in the eye. I'll prove it to you, But first you have to promise to take care of my mama and to let me grow up normal. And you have to start a school where doctors learn to listen with their hearts, not just their brains." The federal officials exchanged glances. They had come expecting to encounter a medical anomaly they could study and potentially exploit. Instead, they were facing a 6-year-old who was proposing to revolutionize medical education. "What exactly are you offering to prove?" Dr. Hayes asked carefully. Emma's expression became serious. "I'm going to show you that 3 people in this room have heart problems you don't know about yet. And I'm going to teach one of you how to hear what I hear right now in the next 30 minutes. The challenge was irresistible. If Emma could demonstrate that her abilities were teachable, the implications for medical science would be staggering. "Very well," Dr. Steinberg agreed. "If you can do what you're claiming, we'll discuss your terms." Emma began walking around the room, pausing in front of different individuals. She stopped first in front of a young government attorney named James Morrison. "Your heart has 2 different songs playing at the same time," she told him. "One is your regular heartbeat, but there's another one that's much faster and lighter. You were born with an extra electrical pathway that's not dangerous now, but it will be when you're older if you don't take better care of yourself." James went pale. He had been experiencing occasional episodes of rapid heartbeat since childhood, but multiple doctors had dismissed them as anxiety. Emma moved to Dr. Catherine Mills from Harvard. "Your heart song is tired, really, really tired. You work too much and don't sleep enough, and your heart is starting to skip beats because it's exhausted. But there's something else. You have a small hole between 2 chambers that's been there since you were born. It's been closing itself slowly, but stress is making it work harder." "Doctor." Mills felt her chest involuntarily, remembering the strange, fluttering sensations she'd been experiencing during late-night research sessions. Finally, Emma approached Dr. Hayes, the most skeptical person in the room. "Your heart has the saddest song I've ever heard," she said softly. "It's not physically broken, but it's been hurt very badly by something that happened when you were young. The sadness is making your blood pressure too high, and that's why you get headaches every afternoon." Dr. Hayes stared at Emma in shock. His childhood trauma and resulting hypertension were known only to his therapist and personal physician. "Now," Emma announced, "I'm going to teach Dr. Mills how to hear what I hear." She guided the Harvard professor to a chair and had her close her eyes. "Forget everything you learned in medical school for a few minutes. Forget about ventricles and valves and electrical conduction. Just listen to my voice and let your heart tell you what it hears." For the next 20 minutes, Emma coached Dr. Mills through a process of auditory meditation, teaching her to distinguish between different layers of cardiac rhythm. Gradually, Dr. Mills began to detect subtle variations in heartbeat patterns that she had never noticed before. I think I can hear something different, Doctor." Mills whispered, her eyes still closed. "It's like there are rhythms underneath the regular heartbeat." "Now listen to James's heart," Emma instructed. Dr. Mills concentrated intently, and after several minutes her eyes snapped open in amazement. "There are definitely 2 distinct rhythms, one regular, one rapid and irregular. This is impossible." "It's not impossible," Emma corrected gently. "It's just forgotten. People used to listen to each other's hearts all the time before stethoscopes and machines. Mothers knew when their babies were sick just by holding them. Doctors could diagnose heart problems just by sitting quietly with patients." The room buzzed with excitement and skepticism. Dr. Hayes pulled out his phone and immediately called for mobile cardiac monitoring equipment to verify Emma's diagnoses. While they waited for confirmation, Emma made her final revelation. "There's one more thing you need to know," she said, addressing the entire room. "I'm not the only child who can do this. There are lots of kids like me, but they get told they're imagining things or being weird, so they stop listening. If you really want to understand heart songs, you need to start with children who haven't learned that it's impossible yet. The mobile cardiac unit arrived within the hour, and Emma's diagnoses were confirmed with stunning accuracy. James Morrison indeed had Wolff-Parkinson-White syndrome. Dr. Mills showed signs of a small atrial septal defect and cardiac fatigue consistent with chronic stress. Dr. Hayes's blood pressure readings confirmed hypertension that correlated with his psychological history. The federal officials huddled in emergency consultation. What they had witnessed challenged everything they understood about human diagnostic capabilities and medical training. When they reconvened, Dr. Hayes addressed Emma with newfound respect. "Emma, your terms are acceptable. We will provide housing and financial security for your family, and we will fund research into developing curricula that incorporates intuitive cardiac diagnosis techniques." Emma smiled, but her expression remained serious. "There's one more condition. I want to choose the doctors who learn this first. They have to be people who really want to help sick people, not people who just want to be famous or make money." "How will you determine that?" Dr. Steinberg asked. "I'll listen to their hearts," Emma replied simply. Hearts don't lie. 3 weeks later, Emma and her mother Maria were settling into a beautiful townhouse in Manhattan's Upper West Side, provided by Marcus Chen's foundation. The transition from homelessness to stability was overwhelming for Maria, but Emma adapted with the resilience that had carried her through months of uncertainty. Marcus had kept his promise, not just providing housing, but creating a trust fund that would ensure Emma's education and Maria's financial security for life. More importantly, he had become the protective older brother that Emma had never had, while Lucy had embraced the role of caring aunt. The newly established Institute for Intuitive Cardiac Medicine was taking shape in a wing of Manhattan Presbyterian Hospital with Dr. Catherine Mills as its first director. She had continued developing her ability to hear cardiac rhythms under Emma's guidance and was now successfully training other medical professionals in the technique. But Emma's peaceful new life was about to be disrupted by a revelation that would test everything she thought she understood about her abilities. Dr. Mills arrived at the townhouse one evening, her usually calm demeanor replaced by visible excitement and concern. "Emma, we've made a discovery that you need to know about." Emma looked up from her homework, immediately noticing the rapid, anxious rhythm of Dr. Mills's heartbeat. "Something scared you, but also made you happy at the same time." "Exactly. Emma, we've been researching the historical prevalence of intuitive cardiac diagnosis, and we found something remarkable. There have been others like you throughout medical history, people who could diagnose heart conditions through auditory perception alone." Emma wasn't surprised. "I told you there were more people like me." "Yes, but that's not the remarkable part. Emma, every single documented case involved people who had experienced significant early childhood trauma or extreme stress. Homelessness, family separation, poverty, illness, some form of adversity that forced them to develop heightened survival instincts." Emma's mother Maria entered the room, catching the tail end of the conversation. "What are you saying about my daughter?" Dr. Mills chose her words carefully. "Mrs. Rodriguez, we believe Emma's abilities may have developed as an adaptive response to the uncertainty and stress of your living situation. When children can't rely on external security, they sometimes develop extraordinary internal sensing capabilities." "So my baby got her gift because I couldn't provide for her properly?" Maria's voice broke with guilt and pain. Emma immediately went to her mother, wrapping small arms around Maria's waist. "Mama, your heart song has always been the most beautiful one I know. You kept us safe and together when everything was scary. That's why my heart learned to listen so good, because yours was always singing love songs to me, even when we didn't have a home. But Dr. Mills had more to reveal. "There's something else, Emma. We've identified 12 other children in the New York area who show signs of similar abilities. Most are from disadvantaged backgrounds, foster care, homeless families, immigrant children separated from parents. They're all between ages 4 and 10. Emma's eyes widened with excitement. "Can I meet them? Can I teach them what I know?" "That's what we were hoping you'd say." "But Emma, some of these children have been through very difficult experiences, trauma that might make them scared or angry or sad in ways that are hard to understand." Emma nodded solemnly. "Hurt hearts have the saddest songs, but they're also the ones that need the most help healing." The next day, Emma found herself in a specially designed playroom at the Institute, meeting her first potential student, 8-year-old David Kim, a Korean-American boy who had been living in foster care since age 5. David sat in the corner, arms crossed defensively, glaring at the adults who had brought him to this strange place with promises of special tests and unique abilities. His foster parents had mentioned that he sometimes made eerily accurate comments about people's health. But David had learned to keep his observations to himself after being called weird too many times. Emma approached him with the patient confidence of someone who understood fear and mistrust. "Hi, David. I'm Emma. I can hear heart songs too." David looked up suspiciously. "Heart songs? That's stupid kid stuff." Emma sat down beside him, not taking offense at his dismissiveness. "What's stupid is when grown-ups don't listen to what kids know. Your heart has been trying to tell you things about people, but you stopped listening because nobody believed you." David's defensive posture began to soften slightly. "How do you know that?" "Because your heart song sounds like mine did before I learned it was okay to trust what I hear. You can tell when people are lying or when they're sick or when they're scared, can't you?" David nodded reluctantly. "Sometimes, but it's not. It's not heart songs. It's just, I don't know what it is." Emma smiled. "It's exactly heart songs. Want me to show you what your foster mom's heart sounds like right now?" For the next hour, Emma guided David through the same process she had used with Dr. Mills, teaching him to consciously access abilities he had been suppressing. By the end of the session, David was successfully identifying emotional states and basic cardiac irregularities in the adults observing their interaction. "This is really real," David whispered, wonder replacing suspicion in his voice. "I'm not weird or crazy." "You're not weird," Emma confirmed. "You're special in a good way. And there are more kids like us." Over the following weeks, Emma worked with each of the 12 identified children, discovering that their abilities ranged from basic emotional sensing to sophisticated medical diagnosis. 9-year-old Aisha could detect respiratory problems through subtle changes in breathing patterns. 7-year-old Miguel had an extraordinary ability to sense neurological irregularities. 4-year-old Sarah seemed to instinctively know when adults were lying or had harmful intentions. But Emma's role as teacher and leader was about to face its greatest test when she encountered Lily Morrison, a 6-year-old girl who had been rescued from a severely abusive situation just 3 months earlier. Lily sat mutely in the corner during her first session, flinching whenever adults moved too quickly or spoke too loudly. Her abilities were potentially the strongest Emma had ever encountered, but trauma had caused her to shut down emotionally and reject all attempts at connection. "Her heart song is broken into pieces," Emma observed sadly. "But underneath the broken parts, there's something really powerful trying to heal." "Doctor." Mills watched anxiously as Emma approached Lily with infinite patience. "Emma, if this doesn't work, we shouldn't force it. Lily's been through enough trauma." But Emma was already sitting beside Lily, not speaking, simply breathing calmly and projecting the same sense of safety that had comforted Marcus during his cardiac crisis. After 10 minutes of silence, Lily whispered, "You're not going to hurt me. Never, Emma replied softly. "I know what it's like to be scared and have nowhere safe to go." "Can you really hear people's hearts?" Emma nodded. "And I think you can too, even better than me. But you stopped listening because listening made you know when bad things were going to happen, and knowing made you more scared." Lily's eyes filled with tears. "I knew he was going to hurt my mum before he did it. I tried to tell her, but she said I was imagining things. Then he hurt her really bad, and I thought it was my fault for not making her believe me." Emma felt her own heart break for this little girl who had tried to use her gift to protect someone she loved, only to blame herself when tragedy struck anyway. "It wasn't your fault," Emma said firmly. "Sometimes grown-ups can't hear what we hear, and sometimes bad things happen even when we try to warn people. But that doesn't mean we should stop listening. It means we need to get better at helping people understand what we know." For the first time since entering the room, Lily made eye contact. "Can you teach me how to make the heart songs not so scary?" Emma smiled, recognizing the moment when fear transforms into hope. "I can teach you how to hear the good parts of heart songs, not just the scary parts. And I can teach you how to help hearts that are broken, like yours is trying to heal." As Emma began working with Lily, she realized she was witnessing something unprecedented, a new generation of children who could revolutionize medicine and human understanding, not despite their trauma, but because of how they had transformed their pain into extraordinary perception. But their peaceful progress was about to be interrupted by a discovery that would reveal the true scope of what they were dealing with, and the powerful forces that wanted to control children who could see into the human heart. Dr. Mills burst into the playroom, her face pale with alarm. "Emma, we have a problem, a big one." Emma looked up from her work with Lily, immediately detecting the fear and urgency in Dr. Mills's cardiac rhythm. "What's wrong?" "We've been monitoring news reports and medical databases worldwide. Emma, there are hundreds of children like you, maybe thousands. They're appearing in hospitals, refugee camps, disaster zones, anywhere children have experienced severe stress or trauma. And someone is systematically identifying them and making them disappear." Emma felt her blood turn cold. Making them disappear? Kidnapping them, taking them from families, foster systems, hospitals. "We think someone is building a private army of children with extraordinary diagnostic abilities." Emma stood up slowly, her young mind processing implications that terrified the adults around her. "They want to use us like weapons." "We think so. Emma, you and the other children are in danger. We need to get you somewhere safe while we figure out who's behind this." But Emma was already shaking her head. "No, running away won't help the other kids who are already missing. We need to find them and help them." "Emma, you're 6 years old. This isn't your responsibility." Emma looked at Lily, then at David and the other children who had gathered around, drawn by the tension in the room. Each child was listening intently, using their abilities to assess the truth of what they were hearing. "Maybe being 6 years old is exactly what makes it my responsibility," Emma said quietly. "Adults want to study us or use us or hide us away. But we know things adults don't know. We can find the missing kids because we can hear their hearts calling for help." "Doctor." Mills stared at Emma in amazement and terror, realizing that she was witnessing the emergence of something unprecedented. A child leader who could coordinate and protect others with abilities that defied conventional understanding. "Emma, what are you proposing?" Emma looked around at her fellow gifted children, seeing determination replace fear in their young faces. "I'm proposing we stop letting grown-ups decide what happens to us. It's time for the kids who can hear heart songs to start taking care of each other." The revolution of the heart whisperers was about to begin. The revelation that children with extraordinary cardiac sensing abilities were being systematically abducted worldwide transformed Emma from a miraculous medical case study into something far more significant. The leader of an underground network of gifted children whose very existence threatened established power structures in medicine, government, and beyond. Within 48 hours of Dr. Mills's alarming announcement, Emma had convinced Marcus to use his vast resources and technological connections to create a secure communication network linking gifted children across the globe. Using encrypted messaging systems and satellite communications, they established contact with young heart listeners from refugee camps in Syria, orphanages in Romania, disaster zones in the Philippines, and urban shelters throughout America. The picture that emerged was both heartbreaking and extraordinary. Wherever human suffering created vulnerable children, some developed Emma's abilities as survival mechanisms. These children were becoming valuable commodities for organizations that understood the strategic advantage of having diagnosticians who could detect deception, illness, and emotional states through simple proximity to targets. Emma sat in Marcus's penthouse office, surrounded by computer screens displaying messages from children around the world. At 6 years old, she was coordinating a global resistance movement with the strategic thinking of a seasoned intelligence operative. The children in Eastern Europe are reporting that men in black uniforms have been taking kids from 3 different orphanages, Emma reported to the assembled adults. Marcus, Lucy, Dr. Mills, and representatives from several human rights organizations. The kids who are left behind say they can still hear the heart songs of the missing ones, but the songs are getting fainter, like they're being taken very far away. Marcus studied satellite data on his laptop. I'm tracking private aircraft movements from those regions. There are several flights to remote locations in Siberia, South America, and what appears to be a private island in the Pacific. Whoever is orchestrating this has serious funding and international reach. Dr. Mills looked overwhelmed by the scope of what they were facing. How do we even begin to combat something like this? We're talking about a coordinated international operation targeting children with abilities that most people don't even believe exist. Emma stood up, her small figure commanding attention from adults whose combined experience spanned decades of medicine, business, and activism. We fight them the same way they're fighting us, she said with startling clarity. We use what makes us special. Emma, what do you mean? Lucy asked. They can take kids away from their families, but they can't stop us from hearing each other's heart songs. Distance doesn't matter. I can hear David's heart from across the city, and I can hear some of the missing kids from really far away if I concentrate hard enough. Emma moved to a world map mounted on Marcus's office wall, placing her small hand on different regions. The missing children aren't dead or completely unreachable. They're being kept in 3 main locations where their abilities are being studied and trained. The word trained sent chills through the adult listeners, implying that the abducted children were being turned into unwilling operatives. Emma, how can you possibly know their specific locations? Marcus asked. Emma closed her eyes, concentrating with an intensity that seemed impossible for someone her age. Heart songs don't stop at borders or walls. When lots of kids with our abilities are kept together in the same place, their songs get louder and create, like a beacon. I can hear 3 big groups of kids singing scared songs together. She pointed to locations on the map, a remote facility in northern Canada, a compound in the Amazon rainforest, and an island installation in the South China Sea. This is impossible, Dr. Mills muttered. Even if what you're describing is real, we can't launch rescue operations in 3 different countries based on the psychic impressions of a 6-year-old. Emma turned to face Dr. Mills, her expression mixing patience with disappointment. Dr. Mills, 3 weeks ago, you thought it was impossible for people to diagnose heart problems by listening. Now you can do it yourself. Maybe it's time to stop deciding what's impossible and start believing what works. Marcus was already making phone calls, activating networks of contacts in international security, private military, and humanitarian organizations. His billion-dollar empire had been built on recognizing opportunities that others missed, and protecting Emma had become his primary mission. "I'm putting together teams for reconnaissance missions at each location," he announced. "If Emma's right about the positions of these facilities, we'll have confirmation within 72 hours. But Emma was already moving on to the next phase of her plan. Confirming where the kids are is just the first part. Getting them out safely is going to be much harder, especially because—" She paused, her expression growing troubled. "Because what, sweetheart?" Lucy encouraged. "Because some of the missing kids don't want to be rescued anymore. Their heart songs have changed. They're not just scared. They're angry and confused. I think the bad people are convincing them that their families didn't really love them, or that using their abilities to help the bad people is actually helping other kids." The psychological manipulation Emma was describing represented a sophisticated form of child exploitation that went far beyond simple kidnapping. The abducted children were being systematically turned against their own moral instincts. "They're creating child soldiers," Marcus said grimly. "Kids who can detect lies, read emotional states, identify medical weaknesses. They'd be invaluable for espionage, interrogation, assassination." Emma nodded sadly. "That's why we can't just rescue them. We have to help them remember who they really are and why their gifts are supposed to help people, not hurt them." Over the next week, Emma's global network of heart listeners began implementing a plan that defied conventional logic but operated on principles that were proving increasingly reliable. Children in safe locations around the world began concentrating on singing messages of love and encouragement to their captured peers, using the same cardiac connection that allowed Emma to locate them across vast distances. The results were remarkable. Reports began filtering in from intelligence operatives near the suspected facilities, describing increased agitation among the captive children, attempts to escape, and resistance to their conditioning programs. "It's working," Emma announced during one of their daily briefings. "The missing kids are remembering that they have people who love them. Their scared songs are getting mixed up with hopeful songs." But their progress was interrupted by a development that brought the conflict directly to their doorstep. Dr. Mills burst into the penthouse, her face pale with alarm. "They're here, in New York. 3 black SUVs just pulled up outside the hospital, and men in suits are demanding access to our files on the Gifted Children program." Emma wasn't surprised. "I've been hearing their heart songs getting closer for 2 days. They're really angry that we've been messing up their plans." Marcus activated the building's security protocols, while Emma gathered the dozen gifted children who'd been staying in safe houses throughout the city. As sirens wailed in the distance and helicopters circled overhead, Emma found herself facing the moment that would define not just her own future, but the future of gifted children worldwide. "Emma, we need to get you out of the city," Marcus urged. "I have a private jet ready to take you and the other children somewhere safe." But Emma shook her head, moving to the penthouse windows that overlooked Manhattan. "Running away won't solve anything. They'll just keep chasing us and taking other kids. It's time to show everyone what we can really do." "What are you talking about?" Emma turned to face the adults and children who had become her chosen family. "I'm talking about going public, all the way public, showing the whole world that kids like us exist, what we can do, and what people are trying to do to us." The audacity of her proposal was staggering. Emma was suggesting that they reveal the existence of extraordinary human abilities to global media while simultaneously exposing an international child trafficking operation. "Emma, that's incredibly dangerous," Lucy protested. "If the world knows what you children can do, then the world will also know when we're in danger, and the bad people won't be able to take us in secret anymore," Emma finished. "Plus, there are probably lots more kids like us who don't even know they're special yet. If we show them it's okay to be different, maybe they won't be so alone and scared." Marcus looked out at the helicopters circling his building, then back at Emma's determined face. "What exactly are you proposing?" Emma smiled with a confidence that seemed to radiate from her very soul. "I'm proposing that we give the world a demonstration they'll never forget." 2 hours later, every major news network was broadcasting live from Manhattan Presbyterian Hospital, where a 6-year-old girl was about to prove that everything humanity thought it knew about medical diagnosis, human perception, and the capabilities of traumatized children was completely wrong. Emma stood before a crowd of reporters, government officials, and medical professionals, with her fellow gifted children arranged around her like a protective constellation of extraordinary abilities. "Hi, everyone," she began, her young voice carrying clearly through the microphones. "My name is Emma Rodriguez, and I'm here to tell you about something really important that grown-ups have been trying to keep secret." What followed was the most remarkable medical demonstration in recorded history. Emma and her fellow Young Heart listeners diagnosed cardiac conditions, detected deception, identified emotional trauma, and revealed hidden medical histories with accuracy that left seasoned physicians speechless. But the true power of their revelation came when Emma addressed the international audience directly about the missing children. "There are kids just like us being kept in scary places by bad people who want to use our gifts to hurt others instead of help them. Right now, I can hear the heart songs of 127 missing children who need to come home to their families." Emma closed her eyes, concentrating with visible effort, then began reciting names, ages, and locations with precision that defied explanation. Each name she spoke was a child who had vanished from hospitals, orphanages, or refugee camps in the preceding months. The global response was immediate and overwhelming. Within hours, international law enforcement agencies were coordinating rescue operations at the facilities Emma had identified. Social media exploded with support for the gifted children and demands for justice for those who had been exploited. But most importantly, children around the world who had been hiding their own extraordinary abilities began reaching out, no longer afraid to admit that they too could hear the secret songs of human hearts. As the sun set over Manhattan, Emma stood with Marcus and Lucy on the penthouse balcony, watching news helicopters capture footage of federal agents arresting the people who had tried to exploit children like her. "Emma, you've changed the world today," Marcus said softly, "not just for gifted children, but for everyone. You've shown humanity that we're capable of so much more than we believed." Emma nodded, listening to the symphony of heart songs rising from the city below. Millions of people whose lives had been touched by the knowledge that miracles could come from the most unexpected places. "The scary part is over," she said contentedly. "Now comes the fun part, teaching everyone who wants to learn how to listen to the music their hearts have been playing all along." In the distance, she could hear the heart songs of 127 rescued children singing with joy as they began their journeys home to safety, love, and the chance to use their extraordinary gifts to heal a world that desperately needed their special kind of magic. Emma Rodriguez, the 6-year-old girl who could hear the secret language of human hearts, had not just saved a dying billionaire or rescued trafficked children. She had opened the door to a new era of human understanding, where the most profound medical breakthroughs would come not from technology or pharmaceuticals, but from teaching people to listen to the wisdom their hearts had always carried within them. The Heart Whisperer revolution had begun, and it was being led by a child who understood that the greatest healing comes from love, courage, and the simple act of truly listening to one another.